Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Good evening, Beer Geeks. You've made it. It's the weekend, and the signal for the weekend is, of course, us desperately trying to find a new way to introduce this podcast, and I'm yet to find one. Any thoughts, Bradley? No.
My back hurts. God, my back hurts. They are my only thoughts right now, Johnny.
You you hurt yourself being that guy stopping a door closing on the tube, right?
Yeah, so obviously we're kind of going about our daily business still, and we're making the best damn quality beer content on the web.
Damn straight.
We were shooting over in Highgate this week for something we're about to sneaky peeky in a minute, and I hate getting a tube anyway. I get incredibly anxious on it, but I was waiting for the tube. If anyone doesn't know this, the London tubes, if you stand on the platform and you look for the London Underground symbol across from you, across the track, that is where the doors will be, pretty much. That is where the doors are going to open. So I was waiting patiently by a little sign, and tubes weren't massively busy, and the door opened, and the guy getting off at my door took an incredibly long time to get out. He was just fannying about massively, and everyone from the other end of the carriage ran on and got all of the seats. Just as I was getting in, just to get my seat, someone pipped me to it. So I then got off of the carriage, and I've got a very big backpack with all camera equipment and stuff in it. Got off of the carriage, jumped off the train, jumped back on to the next carriage along, just as the doors were going beep, 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 beep. And I had, instead of two-strapping the weight evenly across my shoulders, I had one arm on it in a sort of bear hug kind of maneuver, trying to just, brute force this bag from one door to another. And with my other arm, I just absolutely body checked this closing tube door. And as I did that, something in the base of my spine just felt like it exploded. And I managed to get on the tube. I sat down instantly, felt like I'd been stabbed or like mortally wounded. I couldn't breathe. It was really, really a bizarre, horrible experience, especially when you've got a mask on and you're sort of sweating profusely because you're anxious anyway, and you feel like everyone's looking at you. I had to sit on there for, I think, 6 stations, and I kept sort of trying to touch my back to check that I hadn't been stabbed by anyone, because it just felt such a stabby, knifey pain. It was really horrible. And then I had to come out of the tube, and we did a whole day's filming after that. So I was kind of putting a brave face on it, but I felt absolutely terrible.
And that's all we have time for in this week's podcast. Thanks for listening.
Exactly.
That was Friday 5pm. Blimey, I'm
so,
glad
yeah, beer,
I asked. So long story short, Brad hurt his back on the tube. I've hurt every bone in my body actually this week, because we are in the final preparations of the groundwork for building the studio/brewery in the back of my house, and it was last week that I sent a panic text to Brad going, "We found concrete." So we dug down a bit to start laying the foundation, and we'd found concrete way too close to the surface than we needed it. So obviously you rope in your parents at this point. So my dad came down, and together we sledgehammered out a load of concrete. I now own a sledgehammer, which it was so much fun, honestly. Like, nice. I think I might go into demolition. Just pounding out concrete, and then tomorrow I've got to dig the foundations that were supposed to be dug last week, hopefully in time for the studio to arrive, which I'm building the week after.
Have they actually got back to you? Because when we last were talking about this in the week, you were frantically ringing them, and they were just not picking the phone up.
Yeah, it could all be a con, Bradley. I could have, done what old people do and just bought something from a website that doesn't actually exist.
Oh dear.
And they probably...
We definitely haven't, because I've met somebody else who said that they had one of these D-house things. I'm not giving them any free airtime. Screw those guys.
Although currently we're criticising them. But yeah, we'll tell you whether they're good or not once the building's arrived and I've built it.
I'm picturing you, Johnny, like you and your dad. Like, have you seen There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis,
yeah.
where he's an oil man? I'm picturing you like, well, maybe your dad is him and you're the young son, and you're kind of digging for soil, not oil, soil, but you hit a rich vein of concrete just below the surface, and then catastrophe ensues as you smash it to pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically There Will Be Blood, but
yeah, There Will Be Johnny's blood,
much
and
lower
sweat
stakes.
and
I mean,
tears.
there was some blood because we also took down a holly tree, and that that took its revenge on me as it came down.
Can't blame it, can you?
No, I mean, it was really sad to have to cut down any tree, but it was slap bang in the middle of where the studio was going. So that holly tree, came down in the name of great beer brewing and, as you said, the internet's best beer content.
That's it.
TM.
That's it.
So that was my week, and obviously we were filming together because that's why you were getting the godforsaken tube, filming the last scene of two projects that we've been working quite hard on. One is the Square Root one that's currently airing, and we'll get to that episode in a bit, but it's safe to say, as Square Root brutally said on Twitter, the results were interesting. Interesting.
Oh dear. I mean, they were pretty fucking great results, man, from my perspective. No more shall we say.
I think they were fine, Yeah.
Well,
you'll see on Sunday. So the upload of this next episode is happening on Sunday rather than next Wednesday because, as we are about to unveil, we have a huge project launching next week with our usual Wednesday upload. So it's all changed for the next 5 weeks. So we have to pump this one out a little bit quicker, which is definitely not causing me to panic and work all weekend. Definitely not. Should we do the big unveiling?
Oh, come on then. Unless anyone wants to hear about my back a bit more, then I could happily talk about that.
I think it feels like we were basically there, Bradley. That was one hell of a story you spun.
Diatribe.
It felt like I was sort of sat having my hair cut or something, where they mostly chat inane nonsense at you to get over the social awkwardness of somebody caressing your head.
Stuff. Thanks for that. Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
Brilliant. Well, like an old person that doesn't get to speak to people very often, they just want to talk about all their aches and pains.
Yeah, when you sit down on a bench and an old person sits next to you, and you're like, "Oh no,
that's me now, mate. I'm nearly 40, and I'm old, and my back hurts." But yeah, I think we should talk about our very, very exciting new project. Possibly the biggest thing we've ever done.
Possibly. Yes, so next week is the start of a campaign and documentary series that we've been filming for the last 6 months, and it is called...
called... What's it called, Johnny? You want to say, or am I saying it?
No, I was teeing you up for that, Brad.
It's called Keep Cask Alive.
There you go, that was dramatic. So, Keep Cask Alive is, like I say, it's both the docu-series and it's a campaign that was actually initiated by Fuller's / Asahi, who approached us saying that they wanted to give Cask, a real boost after after COVID and after, it's been in decline for nearly a decade now. Sometimes the decline every year has been over 10% in terms of volume. In 2019, before the pandemic, £200 million less cask ale was sold in the UK. So it is serious decline that it's experiencing. And Fuller's, who are now owned by Asahi, wanted to do something about that. They came to us and we came up with a pitch. So they said, we want to make some videos that will help. And we came up with a 5-part documentary series that's going to tell all the amazing stories about cask ale, all the amazing work, the amazing people, the amazing places that go into making it. And then we come up with a very exciting conclusion, which we won't spoil. We'll leave that to the videos. But the first episode starts next week, in which we'll be talking about caring for cask. So it's a 20-minute documentary about the struggles that cask is going through, about the care and attention that it needs to be served at its best. And then the week after that, the real stories begin. So we're visiting Hook Norton, like you guys might have noticed, to talk about history, visiting Sheffield to talk about the future of cask. We've been down in Margate at the micro pubs talking about the future of pubs. And then we're going to be telling the story of Vintage Ale, Fuller's Vintage Ale, as the final episode. So, all of these episodes are 20 minutes long. They're proper little documentaries that we've been working on. We've been travelling. We've been to London about 4 times now to film just this latest episode. So it's been a huge, huge commitment on our part. And we really hope that off the back of that, we can make a difference and get cask, get it exciting again, get people excited about cask. Because I think lots of beer geeks, we're all like, I enjoy a Timothy Taylor's, or I enjoy a Harvey's Best or a 5 Points Best. But it doesn't become a sort of habit. It isn't, when I go into the pub now as a result of what we've shot, I look at the cask lines first, which I don't think I'd have said beforehand.
No, man, like we were sort of saying the other day, this whole experience has sort of fundamentally changed how we interact with pubs, I would say, and our choices we make at the bar, and what we're there for as well, and kind of celebrating a different format from what we've come to sort of think of as exciting beer. A lot of the craft, obviously craft beer, all these kind of independent breweries and stuff, and new exciting styles. But you know what? If cask is like the freshest, fresh bread of beer, most amazing, delicious beer experience you can ever have or hope to have when it's at its best. It's amazing.
Totally agree. And I think I think beer writers talk about that a lot, and none of us have really got under its skin and tried to explain it properly to people that just don't get it or haven't been exposed to that kind of world. And when I look back now, not when I look back, when I look forward now, and I look at breweries that are exciting me, pubs that are exciting me, sort of the language that I'm looking for has changed a little bit. Like it used to be, I used to love to hear about long lagering times, or grams per litre in dry hops, or new hop varieties, or anything like this. And now things like open fermentation, if I hear that word, I'm immediately like, oh, okay. Sorry, 2 words. I'm like, that's interesting if it's a real ale or if it's a lager. Or talking about generations old house yeasts and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's those kind of stories that we need to be telling to get beer geeks excited about cask ale, to explain that everything that you think is exciting about modern beer, there's an equivalent in traditional beer. And we need to sort of recognise that and step away from this obsession with stuff that we consider modern, and recognise that the traditional processes, sometimes the old ways are the best. And a really great example of the shift that I've had is Hook Norton were just the brewery that was local to me when I was growing up. It was just like, oh, that's the local beer, and I'd drink it every now and then and be like, oh, that's all right. But now, to me, Hook Norton is one of the most exciting breweries in the country. Like the fact that they still use their old house yeast, the fact that they still open ferment in square Victorian slate squares, although they're plastic squares now. The fact they deliver it by horse and dray still to the local places. All that's really, really exciting to me. So suddenly this sort of brand from my childhood that I saw as fusty and old is now really exciting in my eyes.
100%, mate. And it's kind of like that thing when when we first went to Czech Republic and you see the traditions that have been there for hundreds of years, and you can taste it in the liquid. And it's once you've seen it and you appreciate all of the history, the tradition, the knowledge, everything that goes into it, the experience just becomes so much richer when you're drinking it. Mm-hmm. It adds up to greater than the sum of its parts, and it elevates your experience in my eyes from being a part of this series we've made. I'm hoping that anyone who watches it is going to be inspired to go out and drink more cask, because the more cask you drink, the better it gets. The better it gets, the fresher it is, man. So we all need to be drinking it.
It's both the joy and the curse of cask, is that if you drink loads of it, the throughput's higher, so it's fresher, so it's better. But if you stop drinking it and drink less of it, then it gets worse and worse, so people drink less of it. So if I could define why cask ale struggles in one sentence, it would be that.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? And I think also people are easily put off because they've maybe had one bad pint where it's a bit vinegary or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's not for me. It's not for me, that, and then you never go back to it, and that is that's the problem. That's what we need to get past.
Yep, and hopefully the series we've shot will start to do that. So yes, that goes live on Wednesday. Like I say, it is sponsored by Asahi/Fuller's, but they gave us complete editorial freedom, other than they wanted one episode involving them, so that's the vintage ale episode. And I mean, it's still an amazing episode. We talked to the guy who was head brewer of Fuller's for 30 years, who invented vintage ale, and tell the story of that. It's going to be a great episode. So we're going to put, at some point, either this weekend or maybe Monday or Tuesday, we're going to put the trailer that we've put together into our Patreon forum. So our Patreons will see it first. And if you're not a Patreon, you can join. There's a link in the show notes, so you can come and see that early and have a chat with us about it. But otherwise, yes, Wednesday it will be going live, and there'll be a big sort of push of that on social as well, because we're hoping, we've timed it in to be released the same day that Cask Ale Week starts. So we're hoping that it's going to be a big deal, and it's going to get some attention and can change some minds, I guess.
Big time. Should we talk about this week's video, Johnny?
We probably should. So this was the big brew day.
Yeah.
The biggest brew day I've ever done. I've never done a double batch homebrew day. I probably wouldn't do it again. It was a bit much, but I had a lot of fun. And the video's done really well. Like, I guess sometimes we forget that YouTube at its heart is a how-to website, right? That's why most people go there, is to learn about something. So when you do just straight up homebrewing, people are like, I'd like to learn that process. And we had lots of comments from people saying it was really interesting to see that process and see my process as well. I wouldn't call what I do a process, I'd call it chaos. But if you learned anything from that, then, I worry for you, / I'm happy for you.
I particularly enjoyed when you were sort of old man style, just sort of talking to the camera, not to the camera, but you'd kind of got up to do stuff, and you were just like, I've still got to bloody clean it all, and the rest of it. It's good. I enjoyed that.
It's the side you don't see. When we're filming together, I inner monologue that. Yes, but I let it all out because I was on my own, and I was like, actually, that can go in. Because we've all thought that homebrewers at some point, you're like knackered towards the end of it, and you're like, I've still got to clean the bloody thing. I think that was relatable content, is the phrase.
Big time. I was just looking at our Discord forum at some comments, which I haven't noted them down. I should have done, but we got some sort of comments about your brewing attire, and that you basically ruined some nice clothes, and then we had some comments from the sort of brewing attire that different forum members wear. I know that Josh Meller said he wears a hipster denim jumpsuit sort of thing. Is it a jumpsuit? Awesome. What do you call it? Dungarees.
Dungarees, yeah.
Which someone else, I can't remember who it was, gave him a little jibe back, basically saying, very sensible when you're sort of working Hotside, when you get all the hot stuff soaking into your denim and burning your legs and whatnot. But yes, you were wearing sort of quite nice clothing to brew in, Johnny.
Well, it's because I've got this pair of trousers that I love. They're Levi chinos, green chinos, but they're cursed. So I bought one pair. I bought one pair and promptly lost enough weight that they didn't fit. I then bought another pair that got ripped. That was the pair I was wearing in that video. So I then bought another pair, and that pair, if you remember, was there for the explosion.
I do remember
in a restaurant where a load of Chipotle hot sauce exploded all over the trousers. So I've now got a final new pair. So I'm on my fourth pair.
Oh, really?
This is all within like a year.
I thought you said that you managed to salvage those ones, but you didn't salvage them.
Well, they're salvaged in terms of I can wear them like sort of normally for, just socially, but they're not the nice pair of chinos I'd wear to a restaurant anymore.
Right.
So
you thought you'd brew in them. You thought you'd brew in the good ones.
Or I brewed in the torn ones.
Oh, fair enough. Right, that's okay. That makes sense.
So, I assume that everybody would brew in stuff that they didn't mind ruining further. But maybe I'm wrong. People want to look good when they're making craft beer. I don't know.
Forums, we had hiking wear from somebody, I can't remember who it was. Sorry for not remembering. And obviously the denim sort of dungarees. But yeah, I mean, waterproofs seem sensible to me. Waterproofs, maybe like a jaunty little pair of cut-off wellies like I was sporting at Bigfoot.
That's not
to keep
practical
your little
wear.
Tootsies safe.
The hot wort will get straight into your boots.
Well, you'd have to be pretty silly to be pouring hot wort down your near your ankles.
You don't do it on purpose.
No, that's true.
Yeah, really what you need is proper not water-resistant dungarees, like the Carhartt
waders
ones that they all wear,
Yeah, or waders, I think, Johnny. Fishing
waders,
attire.
You could go for waders.
Just that's true. I think you should just wear basically, fishing attire, like, and like maybe get a pipe, so you could be proper sort of Captain Birdseye sort of style.
I'm sure you should be smoking around beer.
Maybe not. I'm also picturing now. There will be blood. But
have you watched the film recently? Is that why this keeps coming back to you?
No. It kind of stuck with me, that film. It's a very powerful portrayal by your man, who's from down the road from me. So
there you go. While we're on the topic of things you shouldn't do while brewing, actually, the comment that I've picked out for this podcast is from Andy Higginbottom.
Oh, yeah.
He said, amazing video, love the detail and amazing insight to your process / my chaos, as I call it. He said, I did want to shout no drinking on the hot side at you, though. And there were a couple of comments along this that were saying I shouldn't be drinking while there's boiling wort around. And you're probably right. But when you're drinking a 5% lager, and I did have 3 of them by the end, so I probably was not entirely in control of my faculties. But I feel like, I obey the rule generally. I don't generally drink when I homebrew. I drink at the cleaning stage. But when you've got a double brew day on, my body was expecting that beer. It was like, you've been brewing for 4 hours, so now it's time for a beer.
Damn. Sounds like a good excuse to me, buddy.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm sure that'll stand up in the court of law.
When I pour boiling hot wort on a neighbour or something, yeah. No, nothing and nobody was harmed in the making of that video. My trousers were fine. They were already broken. But yes, you shouldn't really be drinking. Certainly shouldn't be drinking a lot while you're brewing because it can be quite dangerous. So I apologise to anybody that was disgusted and shocked by the fact that I had 2 or 3 beers while that was going on.
My comments were basically similar lines. So Lee Haslam said, great new video, brew with Johnny after 3 beers, love it. James Freeheart said, highly endorse drinking while brewing. And
so he's all for it.
He's all for it. Yeah, he's on team drink, team Hotside. Hot shots part 2 with your 2 brews. Toi. And Nick Levy said, whoa, this is all very new and exciting. Johnny, you know a girl? Because I was like, oh, look at this. I'm pretty sure that is the first time Heather's made it into a video, potentially.
She's been in the background of the odd thing, but that's the closest she's come to being the star, so her hands were in there.
Yeah, good hand modelling skills. Joey from Friends would be proud.
I'll tell you, between friends, the reason she was in on that is because I couldn't get the cling film detached from the roll. So she then came in and managed to get the cling film detached from the roll, and then was like, "Oh, let me do it." So that's how that came about, because I'm useless. Caring
is sharing, mate, and it's a beautiful thing to brew with your loved one.
True. When we do our Christmas brew, Heather's always been there for the Christmas brew with me. She's always part of that one.
Fantastic.
And we brewed a tasty summer pale ale during lockdown as well, so we had something to drink. So she enjoys a brew.
Nice.
So that's pretty much all we have time for this week. The final thing to talk about is the fact that my book is released on Monday.
No way. I don't think you've mentioned that before, Johnny.
People are probably breathing a sigh of relief because I might shut up about it. But they're wrong, because...
No, it's just going to start ramping up now, surely. This is,
onslaught
begins.
The book comes out on Monday. It's already available and already shipping from Camera, who published it, and there's a link in the show notes. But you can also currently buy it from beer merchants if you're in the UK, and I'll put a link to that. And if you buy it from beer merchants, you can also buy it with the 4 collaboration beers that I brewed, with
Cheeky.
Daya, Siren, Elusive, and Lost and Grounded. And they all 4 beers represent the seasons. I'll be putting a video tasting of that live at some point next week when I have time, but do go pre-order it, and then I think it will ship on Thursday the 30th, which is incidentally the day where you can join me and possibly Brad for the book launch party.
I should be here. Yeah, unless, I wouldn't miss it for the world, mate, because obviously I want to big you up and celebrate this massive, momentous achievement with you. But I might be in Amsterdam. But I probably won't.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, but I might be in Amsterdam.
It's my birthday as well, so I kind of want to go to the Dam and, go to the biggest flea market in Europe, which is kind of what I want to do. But yeah.
Well, that probably is more fun than my book launch, but I still hate you for it.
I'm coming.
So you guys can come down to the Beer Merchants Tap, which is in Hackney Wick, East London. If you can't make that, I'm at Hackney Brewery, which is weirdly in Walthamstow, on the Saturday, and then I have a whole book tour, I think it's 14 dates overall, all around the country. There's Leeds, Bristol, Cheltenham, London, Wokingham. We're talking about a Manchester date at the moment. I want to do an Edinburgh date. There's Northampton. And there's somewhere else I'm missing. Not sure. I'm also going to Hitchin Beer Festival tonight to sell some books. That's a Camera Beer Festival. So I'm everywhere. So come say hi.
You're everywhere, mate.
If you can make it to one of them.
Do you want to make an appeal for people's houses to stay in? Or are you Alan Partridging it all the way in Travel Lodges with your 12-inch
Premier Inn, mate. Travel Lodge sucks. Premier Inn for the win.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I'm all set for that. The only other thing to add is that if you buy that box from Beer Merchants, you could hold on to the beers until the 14th of October, which is our next live show, when we'll be tasting through those beers and talking about the book, taking questions. So make sure you've read the book by then, but not drunk the beers. I haven't thought this through. But
the box, Johnny, do you get just 4 beers or do you get 2 of each? How does it work?
It's just 4 beers because quantities are pretty small. So top up that order.
Wow, yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be releasing them so soon, dare I say. People are going to want to drink them. And then what are we going to do when we do a live show and nobody's got anything to drink, Johnny?
Well, they can. What we could ask them. This would be cool if you do want to drink the beers before the live show. Then just have a little think and pick 4 beers that you think represent the seasons, and drink them during the show, and we can chat about everybody's choices. How's that for a little segment?
I like it a lot. Yeah, that's a good segment, man. I think that'd be top bananas. There you go.
Awesome. So there we go, guys. All the links are in the descriptions of the podcast. And we will see you on Wednesday for possibly the biggest upload of our lives.
Amazing.
The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.